Standing up in McKinney, this is According to Callus, coming to you on Tuesday, the 20th of May, the year of our Lord, 2025. And normally this would be a Texas or a Texit Tuesday. However, that's been backburnered for the time being, folks. Apologies. Today we're going to spend some time talking about apartments in my own hometown of McKinney. It seems that is an issue that'll never die, and I don't think it's as simple as some would like it to be. And you hear a lot of yeah buts and well what abouts in this scenario. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to spend a good 15-20 minutes talking about it. I've got a little bit else I'll tack on the end, and there we go. I mean, the McKinney election, we never seem to be done. All right. Let me remind you before I get to the program, the meat of the show, if you will. Still doing a program. Still going to be here. I need your help. Like, share, subscribe, follow me on your podcatcher of choice, the social media of choice. Every little bit helps. We have been shadow banned or throttled or whatever the correct terminology is at this point in time. Don't know. Don't really care. The difference is astounding. It is kind of shocking what these companies do. But look, we're nearly 750 numbered episodes in. It's in my best interest to keep plugging along. I think that I perform a service. Whether or not everyone else enjoys it, well, I'm not necessarily there for you if you don't like it. So, no offense. Everybody's got their own options. The simplest solution is turn it off. It's a podcast. It costs you nothing but your time. I don't make any money with it. I spend a whole lot of time and effort to show up at this point at least once a week and put you out a nice episode talking about something of substance with nothing more than a few notes at the beginning. So here we go on with the program. Okay. So as you may be aware, there is a runoff for our mayoral race as well as the at-large race for Precinct 1. At stake here, in my opinion, is continuing on with the status quo. Now, to be fair, McKinney's still a very nice town. McKinney is a very nice mid-sized city. People are still flocking to join the city or be near the city. There is a lot to like and love in McKinney. McKinney has had the tagline, unique. Right? The problem is we're ignoring our own punchline, our own tagline. We're not looking to stay unique, in my opinion. Okay? So I'm going to go on the record and say both people running for mayor on paper are qualified to be mayor. Both people running for mayor probably would do a technically good job. Right, of what the mayor actually does. The issue is we've had, we'll call it a presumed way of doing things for over a decade in the city of McKinney. That presumed way of doing things has led to a lot of growth. We have achieved some of the business relocations or attracted new businesses, if you will, which is one of the goals that was put forth by the prior administration. So you got to give credit where credit is due. The corollary is, with that growth, the price of purchasing a home skyrocketed. And McKinney has what I would say in most parts of the city, a very high standard of what the materials must be in order to construct a home. So for those of you that don't know, home building and the cost associated with it keys on three things. the cost of the land, the cost on the materials, and the cost on the labor to put the materials on the land. Okay? At this point in McKinney/Collin County, there's very little that can be done about the cost of land. It is never going to go down. Well, I shouldn't say never. It's not likely to ever go back to where it was. And the tracts of land available for development are shrinking. The materials, because McKinney requires certain fascia materials, right? The exterior skin of the house must look a certain way. It must be built a certain way. I don't think anything is overboard or unruly or out of line, so I'm not making that accusation. I'm merely trying to say that if you require a brick facing on the whole house or a stone, that's going to be significantly more expensive than some kind of siding. Now, a lot of folks don't like the way siding looks. Okay. But keep in mind, most homes are built with some form of siding and with hardy plank and various other forms of that. I mean, and then there's stucco, and I know that's not cheap either. But the exterior look is driven by the HOAs and the city. And those expenses are built in. And with that expensive material also comes the expense of labor. Again, putting up a brick facing or stone is much more expensive than putting up siding. Now, you can say that it's more aesthetically pleasing. You can say it's more fireproof. I mean, I'm sure there are valid things for that, but it's also significantly more money to the cost of the final product. So then, depending on what you do on the inside of the home, which largely is not controlled by the city or even the HOA, it's primarily the builders and the desires of the buyers. Obviously, granite countertops are going to be far more expensive than Formica. I don't know that I would want to spend money on Formica countertops in a new home, but if the Formica countertops are there when you move in, that's just kind of something you work with, right? But it's significantly less cost involved. So there's trade-offs. You can have a nicer home, spend a lot more money, or a less nice home. Not that it's a bad home, not that it's a cheap home, although inexpensive would probably be an appropriate term, and get lesser things in it for a significantly reduced cost. Then you have to deal with the size of the homes. A lot of cities and even counties have minimum requirements for square footage. So the bigger the house must be, well, the bigger the cost correspondingly is with it. So all these things are coming together to create a cost that has become unsustainable for many folks that are working. And by many folks, I just mean people that have your average, white collar job or even a higher paying blue collar job. Maybe they're netting out $150K, right? It's still very expensive to purchase a house with a combined income of $150K, even with inflation, even with everything else going on. And we're not going to get down the sidetrack of inflation and the value of the dollar, because that's definitely needing to be factored into the situation. So as a city grows and it has needs, and you have to have a certain amount of housing. And of course, the federal government, they've stuck their nose into this. They demand and require, if you receive federal funds, certain things from the city governments. Now, I don't know all the details. I'm not privy to them. But as a general rule, you have to have what they call attainable housing or Section 8 housing or smaller, right? They want to stratify the amount of people, or I should say, the amount of differences of income within a city. Now, again, to be fair, maybe this was done with pure intentions. Maybe it wasn't. Don't know. Don't really care. But I will say, you can't build an entire city of 300 or 400,000 people, which we haven't attained yet, by the way, without having people that live in the city or live not nearby the city to take the lower skilled jobs or the lower end jobs because they can't afford to live in the city. So in ideal world, this is where an upper flat or a 4-family or even like a 20-unit apartment comes into play, or studio apartments come into play, because people can go there and live on the cheap, and they are part of the city. Unfortunately, there's no money in that. Nobody wants to build those units. And for the most part, you're disallowed from taking your own home and building a second floor to put in a rental flat. You're disallowed from building a casita or a second building on the back of your property for an income building, right? You're disallowed by many cities from building a casita, essentially, so you can have a multi-generational home situation. Now, I don't know what the specifics are for the city of McKinney. So again, I want to be clear. I'm not bashing McKinney. I still think McKinney's a wonderful city. There are a lot of really good things about it. My concern is where do we go from here? What are we going to go and adapt to what the future looks like? Now, I would like to see that. So way back in 2019, I participated in a city council race. And a couple of things I talked about is we could lower the minimum lot requirement, and we could lower the minimum square footage requirement. And in addition to that, we could alter the materials required for cladding on the homes, which would allow for smaller homes on smaller lots to have and a less expensive materials be used. Now, I will say, again, now whether this was forced upon us or whether somebody innovated and allowed for it to happen, there are at least 2 developments in the city of McKinney currently that have followed that model. Now, I'm not suggesting to you that 20% of all the homes built in McKinney need to be like that. I'm not even suggesting to you that what we have is adequate. We might need more. But what I am suggesting is we need to look at other viable options, other things that we could do. Now, I think most people understand that apartments in and of themselves are not the problem. Rental homes or rental units in and of themselves are not the problem. Now, I'm going to be very careful here because some people will impute things that I'm not saying or even agreeing with to this scenario, but specifically a much higher percentage of apartment dwellers or rental residents skew left of center. Now, whether it's because they're transient and they're not worried about the long-term costs, whether it's because they're young and they're still unaware of what the costs are, or whether it's, I don't know, use your own words. I'm just saying there's more than one understanding of what's going on here, and there's probably more than one explanation that would cover this. And somebody pointed out that the apartment thing is a hasty generalization fallacy. That may be, but there's a reason why it's a generalization, because it's generally true. It's not always true. It's not everybody. Yes, it's the whole thing, you painting with a broad brush, but when you paint with a broad brush, sometimes people get lumped in that don't need to be lumped in. Some people feel like you're trying to single them out and shame them. No, that's not the case at all. I've lived in a flat when I was a kid. My family lived in a flat. Then I lived in a cottage, which was essentially a 4-bedroom casita that had a kitchen and a bathroom behind my parents' house. I've lived in a 4-family with my wife and young daughter. I've shared a home with my in-laws. I've owned my own home for combined 22 years, and I'm now in a rental home. So I've run the gamut. I don't disrespect people for where they live. I don't disrespect people for whatever their monetary situation is. I don't think anybody that is not thrilled about massive quantities of apartments has anything personal against anybody that lives in a rental home. I think what the concern is the density issue. When you put in hundreds, perhaps 1,000 units in a small footprint, that's a whole lot of people in a small area, and problems tend to follow it. Now, is it the fault that they're, I got the scare quotes up, lower income people? Is the fault that they're younger people? Is it the fault that, I don't know, choose your own explanation here. I would just suggest to you that from what law enforcement has told me, indirectly, of course, the more people you have, the more crime you get. So consequently, the more dense it is, the more people in a small area, the more problems you're going to have. Now, I'm going to overlook the aesthetic issue. I think you can make an apartment complex look pretty nice, especially with the live, eat, play kind of scenario. I don't know that we need 15 of them in the area, but apparently that's the direction we're going. I think there are lots of different options here, but in the fairness mode, right? In fairness, they're going to keep building apartments as long as people want to move into the apartments. And that's what everybody fails to remember that doesn't like apartment complexes. As long as people are moving in, they're going to continue to build them. Now, there's we'll call it a separate, not second, but a separate sub-issue involved here. And one of the comments brought up Section 8 housing. And I referenced it earlier. That is an issue. And again, this is a generalization. Typically, folks that get Section 8 housing can't afford to live there but for government money. And unfortunately, a percentage of them, I don't know if it's a majority or plurality, I'm not casting dispersions, I'm merely giving you reasons why people have problems with them, mistreat the place they live, and they mistreat the complex that they live in. They don't appreciate it because they don't pay the full cost of it. I mean, that's as clear as I can make it without casting dispersions, and I'm really trying to avoid doing that because I don't know. And clearly, I don't know that many people that are in that situation, so I can just speculate. So, I will assume that if you live in a neighborhood and across the street or a quarter mile down the road, which was previously zoned as commercial or previously zoned as single family or previously zoned multifamily not to exceed whatever, and they decide to show up and put in 800 apartment units, most people are not going to be thrilled about that. They're just not. Now, I've spent all this time. We need to now put in one extra piece of the puzzle here. The market dictates what people are willing to build. Now, the market has been corrupted by government interference. Yes, both federal, state, and local government interference. But in general, it is far more expensive for me to go in and put up a building for a business and find a business that's willing to locate here and invest all that time, money, and energy to build the building, only to run the very real risk of either going out of business, having to close the store because it's underperforming, or something else. Housing is the safe bet. Strip malls. I mean, people complain about strip malls, but you have to understand, strip malls go in because people see an opportunity to make money. They see that there's a market opening that they can fill by putting in a strip mall. And again, people routinely complain, oh, there's too many nail salons, too many donut shops, too many dentists, too many frozen yogurt, if you will, shops. The fact of the matter is over a period of time, they will come back down to what the market bears. Same thing's going to happen with apartments. Now, do I think that we should incentivize apartment complexes going in? No, absolutely not. Do I think that the city of McKinney overall benefits from thousands of apartment units going in? No, I do not. Do I think that the government ought to put a moratorium on all new apartment complexes in the city of McKinney? No, I do not. I think that there's something in between here, something that we can negotiate out, right? There's other options. There's other things that we could do. And I don't want to necessarily disincentivize, because let's face it, McKinney's going to grow. The growth is here. It's not going away. We just have to be smart about it. The problem is, and this is where we're going to get back to the mayoral race. I've gone almost 15 minutes on, a little over 15 minutes on, so we're going to pivot back to the underlying issue here. We have a city council race that's gone to runoffs. So we have an opportunity to think about, how do we go forth into the future in keeping McKinney unique? How do we rethink what we've been doing? In other words, I don't know, do an analysis on what have we done for the last 10, 12 years? Has it worked well? Has it worked somewhat well? Or is there room for improvement? Or is there a lot of improvement needed? And I don't think the folks that, let's say, are the favorite candidates from the city elite are going to be willing to do that in an open, honest way. I don't think they're overly concerned about what a good number of the residents think and want, as long as they keep their benefactors happy or get whatever they're benefiting out of it. And I'm not, to be clear, I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything illegal. I will assure you that all these folks go to great lengths to make sure they're following the letter of the law. So, what does that look like? We have to have somebody that's willing to come in with fresh eyes and evaluate where we've been, where we are, and where we would like to go. I don't think you're going to get that under Bill Cox. I could be wrong. He could surprise us all. I just don't think you will. The guy's been sitting in planning and zoning for about a decade, and before that, when he was on the city council, I think it'd be fair to say he didn't distinguish himself in a good way. And I'm not slandering the guy. I'm not going to talk poorly of him. I don't know all the details. I don't know everything that went on. But if you are enthusiastic about what we've been doing and what we're going to continue to do under the consistent refrain of growth at any cost, essentially, then your choice is simple. But if you would like to take a pause, figure out what's the right way going forward, how do we adapt? What are some things we could reconsider going forward? I mean, it seems very simple. Apartments are an answer. They fill a niche. Am I excited about the possibility that large chunks of land are going to be filled with apartment complexes? No. Do I think that's what's best for the city of McKinney long term? No. Do I want to ban them all? No. And yes, I'm repeating it, and I want to be clear. Anything that you do in a city has to allow for options. That's one of the things that was supposed to be unique in Adriatica. Now, I'm not sure that the final analysis that it worked out the way it was originally envisioned, but I don't really know. I don't know that I can find the guy that originally envisioned it. I'm sure he's around here somewhere. But to me, if you want to keep McKinney unique, you have to try unique things. You have to do things that are different. I mean, our sister cities of Frisco and Allen and Plano, they've already done all these things that we're doing right here and right now. We need to look at doing something different. We need to maintain the idea that we truly are unique. And I don't think you're going to do that if you keep doing the same old, same old. So, again, this all comes down to people want to hate on the apartment complexes without understanding there is a lot more going on there. As an aside, I've often seen the refrain that, well, where were you at the city council meeting? Or where do you serve on the city? Or what have you done? You're just there running your mouth. Okay, that's a fair criticism if it was a fair and even-handed process. But I have volunteered for the county. I've served on 2 boards at the county level. I did try and serve on a city board. That didn't go too well. I've known several other people that have gone and tried to apply, and that didn't go too well for them either. Now, I realize I have my own baggage when I show up at City Hall. I wasn't offended. I kind of expected it, if you will. But there are a whole lot of other people there in the city that have legitimate concerns, but they're not connected in. They don't have the inline to get into these situations. And rather than ridiculing them, putting them down, dismissing their concerns, and telling them, well, you don't know anything because you didn't serve on this, that, or the other thing, why don't you invite them in? Why don't you give them an opportunity to hear the other side of the story? It seemed to me that an open hand would be far more successful than a closed fist. And it goes both ways, right? There's a lot of activists, people that I know, they're quick to criticize, and they're not always wrong. In fact, most of the time they're right. But again, a little diplomacy is helpful. A little open hand, hey, I have some concerns about what's going on here. Can we talk about it? Now, with the administration that's going away, perhaps we have an opportunity. Perhaps the replacement, whether it's Mr. Cox or Mr. Sanford, will have an entirely different way of approaching people. I think they have entirely different visions of where they see the future of McKinney, but I'm hoping they'll have a similar way of approaching people. Now, again, in fairness, I don't know Mr. Cox personally. I do know some people that know him, say he's a nice guy, say he's very open. So again, I'm not going to bash the guy. I'm not going to say negative personal things about him because I don't know. It's not fair. I'm not doing you a solid. But I do know Scott Sanford. And I got to tell you, I don't know anybody that really has anything bad to say about the guy. So, I mean, not somebody that knows him well. I mean, people don't like the fact that he voted a specific way, or, you know, he didn't do this or he didn't do that when he was in the state legislature. But if you meet him personally, I've never met anybody that's just like, oh, that guy's terrible. It's never happened. Not in my circle. Your mileage may vary, as they say. Again, my hope, my sincere hope is, no matter the outcome, we'll have a new interactive model at City Hall. A fresh way to exchange ideas with the constituents, with the people that live in the city, with the taxpayers, if you will. My hope would be we would get a new vision or a new method of thinking about things and how the city might be developed via Mr. Sanford. But again, that's one vote. Jumping back over to that at-large race, I mean, I don't know either guy. I think Mr. Lynch is the better option. I think that both are qualified. Both could do the job. But again, we live in a city that was developed in the progressive era. We have a city manager that actually runs the city. We need people that act as a board of directors on the city council, that they understand business, they understand budgets, and they understand process, and that they understand, you know, practical matters. And either one of these guys is more than capable of doing it. If I was going to divide them, my opinion, my impressions, if you will, Mr. Garrison, I think, echoes the outgoing administration. And while he might be a Trumper, and I guess in some ways that would be in his favor, but I don't think we need somebody with a Trump attitude on city council. Nor do I want to repeat the outgoing administration's dismissive attitude towards other people. And I think there's evidence to suggest that's how Mr. Garrison would behave. Now, Mr. Lynch, again, I don't know much about the guy. I haven't really interacted with him. He's got some high praise from people that I respect and people I know. He seems to have a much softer interaction. He seems to be far more interested in what works and finding the right thing to do. I mean, that bodes well for the guy. So, I mean, I think it's safe to say I've already endorsed both Scott Sanford and Ernest Lynch as far as this election runoff. I'm not looking to redo that or resell you on that concept, But I want you to understand my frame of mind, and I want you to understand how that fits in the context of the development of McKinney and the apartment complex explosion that we have. With that, I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you on the other side.
For all your Texas fashion tees, it's TexianPride.com. Whether you're out honky-tonkin' in Austin, bucking Broncos in Fort Worth, or strolling the San Antonio Riverwalk, Texian Pride is here for you. Support a Texan-owned business and show off your love for Texas with style. Visit TexianPride.com for your next fashionable Texas tee.